you're over there. Sorry, the LCD screen caught my attention. Anyway, hello, good morning, good afternoon, and a very good evening to you, the good and more people of the tube. Hope you're well today, hope you're feeling grand and always well in your world. The level dial caught me off guard. Anyway, hello everybody. Today's video, everybody, is one that has been quite highly requested and also one I've been meaning to do and wanting to do for a long time. So today's video is all about how to relic a guitar with a poly finish. And today's guitar is my High Benton ST here. I have kind of 90% finished the relic on this guitar, but the last 10% I wanted to film and explain what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and certain other kind of like things that I've found out. Because I've reliced quite a lot of poly finished guitars now, so I've kind of found quite a lot of things out about doing it. I'm not saying this way is the best way. I'm not saying this way will work for every poly finished guitar. Some poly finished guitars you can't relic because the finish is just too hard. And also they're not real wood underneath. Well, even saying that though, I mean the Batacaster sat in the corner over there. That's got a pretty beastly relic job to it. But yeah, anyway. But there is definitely some poly finished guitars that you just can't relic. They're just too much hard work. It's not worth it. But this guitar, this High Benton, has been an absolute pleasure to relic, and it's been really good fun, and I've really enjoyed it, and I absolutely adore this guitar now. We started off a bit rocky, me and this guitar did, but now we are best of friends, and I do need to finish it today. So I have done the front, as you can see. So I've got a kind of light relic on it. I ain't gone massively over the top. So this is the front, just some things, and then it's got some arm wear there, up onto the top horn. I've done the scratch plate as well. Let me see if I can get that. So this is kind of like, where I play, so it seemed natural to kind of like wear it down there. I've also kind of dulled the scratch plate down as well. It's not as gold and as shiny as it was. And then I've done the sides as well. There's a few dings and dents. You can't really... I don't know if the camera's picking them up. There's tiny little dents. Some on the back end, and then some on the bottom. The bottom always gets more wear. A bit more wear there. But the wear we're going to do today, the last 10% of this guitar is this body wear here. I want to extend it down to the tremolo cavity there. So that's what we're going to be working on today. Once that's done, this guitar is finished. And I say I've dinged up the back a bit as well. So it's not ridiculously over the top relicking, but it's kind of like, mild. But I didn't want to kind of go crazy relic on this guitar. I wanted to kind of like, kind of subtle, so to say, in a way. Well, as subtle as it can kind of be. Anyway, before I get into all this, I need to do a bit of a disclaimer. So, if you don't like relicking guitars, and you don't like relic guitars, and you don't like the idea of it, and you don't see the point of it, and all that kind of thing, because there's a lot of people out there who don't like relic guitars, and I get it. I can understand why. I would advise you not to watch any more of this video. Because basically, this entire video is all going to be about relicking guitars. So if you don't like the whole thing, then I'd advise you not to bother, because it's just going to be a waste of your time. So I wouldn't advise you watch any more of this video. So, because this video is all about relicking. And if you don't like relicking, then you don't want to watch this. And I haven't got a problem with that. I ain't got a problem with people who don't like relicking either. The one thing I do have a problem, though, with is people who don't like relicking. They tend to kind of try and enforce that opinion on people with an iron fist. And that needs to stop. If you don't like relicking, that's cool, but you can't tell other people not to have it done or not to buy a guitar that's relicked. It's not fair. It's not on. It's not fair. It's not your guitar. It's not your money. You know what I mean? If somebody came into your house, if you don't like relicking and somebody came into your house and they started attacking your guitar with a knife or a chisel, then yeah, you definitely got grounds to kind of like, not be happy. But when it's somebody else's guitar that they've bought and it's theirs, their property, they can do what they want with it. It's not for you to tell them they're wrong or they've done something silly or it's a mess or this, that and the other. If they love it, that's all that matters. Don't go around putting seeds of doubt into people's minds if that's what they want. It's not fair and it's not cool. It's really not cool. So if you don't like relicking, please don't watch any more of this video. You won't enjoy it. If you don't like relic guitars or watching guitars being relicked or anything like that, then I would advise you not to watch any more of this video. You won't enjoy it, and this and the other. So just wanted to get that in there as a bit of a disclaimer, because there are a lot of kind of like anti-relicers out there who really enforce their opinion with an iron fist, and I don't like it. I can't fathom it. I don't understand why they would do it. It's like, we live in a world where, if you don't like it, just look away. You don't have to watch something, or you don't have to have, you don't have to voice your opinion on everything. You don't have to do it. We live in a world where that's kind of like almost kind of like people feel that's almost kind of like a precedent you have to do now. It's like, I've got an opinion, I need to voice it. You don't. If it's going to hurt or upset someone, then keep it to yourself. And there is a lot of people out there who relic guitars who get a lot of flack for it, and it's not necessary. It's not necessary. If you don't like it, that's cool. I totally understand why you don't like it, but it's not for you to tell people it's wrong, because it's not wrong. If people want to do it, that's fine. This is my guitar that I bought, and I can do this if I wanted. If I want to throw this guitar on a fire, I could throw this guitar on a fire. I'm not going to. I love it too much. But that's the point. And it just as a bit of a quote, I remember hearing a story about Ian Pace from Deep Purple. Ian Pace from Deep Purple got a brand new Ludwig drum kit for a gig, and at the end of the gig he smashed up the drum kit. And the next day he got a lot of flack for it, saying how dare he and this, that and the other in the music press. And Ian Pace said, I bought it, I can do what I want with it. And that's how I feel about the whole Relic thing. If you don't like it, that's cool, but don't tell me I can't do it, because this is mine. I can do kind of what I want with it. So, if you don't like Relic guitars, I'd advise you not to watch any more of this video. So, anyway, enough on that. Just wanted to get that in there before I start this video, because I don't like how people, anti-Relicers, go about trying to get their opinion across, saying it's wrong and this, that and the other, because it's not wrong. You can do what you want. It's your instrument. If you want it to look like this, then you make it look like this. Anyway, so enough on that. Let's get down to this guitar. Let's get down to the subject at hand, because I just want to get that in there before we get going. Okay, so everybody, so today I'm going to talk about like how I've reliced this guitar first, and then I'm going to do the back, and then we're kind of like we'll go from there. So a lot of people say polyurethane finished guitars can't be reliced. They can. It just requires certain sacrifices, so to say, to relic a polyurethane guitar. They never relic as nice as nitro, and they never relic as nice as a guitar that's got kind of wood underneath. Poly finished guitars normally have a very thick clear coat on top of the wood, and this guitar is a perfect example of that. What you can see that looks like wood, like there for instance, that's the clear coat. That's the lacquer, plastic polyurethane clear coat that's covering the wood. That isn't the wood. Okay, so what you normally get with these kind of like cheaper guitars is you get the wood, or fiberboard or chipboard or whatever it is. This does actually happen to be wood, but it's still got the really thick clear coat. You get the wood, and then on top of that you get a very, very, very thick layer of clear coat kind of lacquer, and it is as hard as nails. It really is as hard as nails. And then on top of that you normally get the finish, for instance here, the yellowy off white colour. And what I do to relic poly guitars is I only relic to the clear coat. I don't bother trying to get through the clear coat to the wood. I tried it once, and I've done it on my vintage V6, and it was so much hard work, and it wasn't worth it at the end of it. It just wasn't worth it at the end of it. It doesn't look silly, but it was one of those things where I'm like, kind of wish I hadn't bothered kind of doing it. I wish I'd just stuck to the clear coat. But it was kind of an experiment I wanted to see, and it is easily, on my vintage V6, it's easily a centimetre of clear coat before you get to the wood. And then on top of that you had the finish, which was about half a centimetre thick. So you've got a lot of thing there, and I might show that in a video or a picture one day on like my social media stuff. But anyway, so what I do is I relic down to the clear coat. Okay, so I just basically take off the top layer of finish. I did that on my Rory Gallagher Strat. I did that on my vintage Gold Top. I did that on what other poly finish? I did that on this guitar. I've done it on quite a lot of guitars I've reliced with poly finishes. I just go down to the clear coat and I stop there, because it's far too much hard work to get through the clear coat to the actual wood. And normally when you get to the wood through the clear coat, there's so much of a dip in the finish, it makes it sharp and nasty, and it doesn't look particularly pleasing. It's not aesthetically pleasing. If you just do to the clear coat, you get a kind of nice, kind of like, if I get kind of like the light right, you get kind of a nice kind of like blend in. I don't know if I'll be able to get it, but you can kind of see it's just a nice transition from the finish to the clear coat. So that's kind of like my main kind of tip to this is when you're trying to relic a poly-finish guitar, forget trying to get to the wood. You know, it's not worth the effort, and it looks okay, but it doesn't look great. It looks a lot more convincing just going down to the clear coat and just using the clear coat as the wood, if you know what I mean. And so yeah, that's what I'd advise there. So, and that's what I've done to this guitar here. And I don't think I've got another poly guitar in here, have I? No, I ain't got any other poly guitars in here that I've reliced. So yeah, so that's my first kind of tip and that's kind of one of the sacrifices you kind of have to make when relicing a poly-finish guitar is you're never going to get to you're never really going to get to the bare wood unless the colour is actually on top of bare wood, which on a cheap guitar that's very rare. That's very, very rare. So in my experience anyway, you're not going to find it with Squire, you're not going to find it with like, you know, Harley Benton or anything like that. You know, you're not going to find that under the poly lacquer is wood. It's normally going to be the finish and then clear coat and then wood. And normally what happens is, I say, the clear coat is as hard as nails, and it's just so much hard work to get through it, and it just isn't worth it at the end of the day. So that's kind of my number one thing is when relicing these guitars is I only go down to the clear coat, and because it's clear coat, you can see the wood underneath. It has the right colour and it has the kind of right look to it. The only thing is when you get up close to it, you can kind of tell. I mean, you can kind of tell that's not wood. It doesn't quite look right. It doesn't shine. It shines, which means it's not. You know, you can kind of tell. But from a distance, you know, even there, you know, it's quite hard to tell. It's not wood, so to say. And it looks like it's very smooth. So so that's kind of tip number one, really, if you will. So I haven't structured it. I don't structure any videos, but I just kind of start talking, hoping it makes sense at the end. So that's kind of like what I would always recommend is don't try and get to the wood. Just get to the clear coat, get through the top layer of finish, the finish itself, either it's sunburst or whatever, and just stop at the clear coat and then work from there. It's a lot easier. It's just not as time consuming to get through. To get through to the wood is ridiculously difficult, and it's just not worth it. And you just have gouges at your guitar to get through the clear coat, and it just doesn't look cool. It doesn't look rubbish, but it doesn't look right, if you know what I mean. If you look at worn guitars, they don't look like they've got these huge divots carved. Well, some of them do, but they don't have huge divots out of them into wood and stuff like that. Well, no, some of them do, actually. I'm talking nonsense there. Ignore that statement. That's silly. But no, some of them do. But like, if it's come down to like stuff like armware normally kind of like does transition on a guitar, like, you know, from the arm into the finish quite, you know, naturally. There's no kind of there's not a lump there because it's kind of worn smooth by the person playing it over the years. So yeah. But anyway, yeah, just get down to the clear coat and then leave it at that with a poly guitar, and you do get kind of like the same kind of idea. So that's kind of like tip one. So I'll tell you what I'll do. What I'll do now, I'll take the camera off the tripod and I'll just show you what I've done to this guitar, and I'll talk about it quickly, and then we'll get into Relic in the back and I'll show you how I do it. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, another thing I forgot to mention really quick before I start talking about how I've done this to this guitar is with polyurethane, always wear eye protection, because when you're relicing a nitro guitar, it's not really an issue, but polyurethane chips and you don't want to get it in your eye because it's a plastic and it will hurt and it could cause damage to your eye. So always wear eye protection, and I'll be wearing these overly elaborate goggles when I start relicing the back of this. Because it just takes that one little bit of that this plastic finish to get in your eye. It could do, you know, it could do quite a bit of damage to your eye, and you don't want that. So, anyway, so what did I do to this guitar? So, I've gone kind of like light relic on this. I haven't gone kind of like over the top with it. I just wanted it to kind of like, you know, look fairly kind of played in. I wanted the armware. So, like I say, that is just clear coat. Okay, so this is the finish on top, and all I've done is with a craft knife, really sharp craft knife, it has to be ridiculously sharp, is just scrape away the top layer of finish down to the clear coat, which is what that is. Okay, and then all these chips is basically this case of getting craft knife into the top layer of finish and just chipping it out. Like that. It's really, really simple. I'll show you how to do it in a minute. So that's what I've done there. I've left the shine because vintage guitars, even though they're used and whatnot, do shine. They're not matte finish or anything like that. Quite a lot of vintage guitars that are kind of worn and beaten up are very shiny. My friend Nick's Gold Top, Les Paul Gold Top 52 from made in 52 is very shiny still. It's very it's beaten and it's used, but it's still very shiny. So so I left the shine on it. I was thinking of taking it down with some white really fine grain wire wool, but now I thought I'd leave the shine. I like it. It looks more kind of like proper. I mean, the thing about a Relic guitar is when you Relic a guitar, it's never ever going to look 100% like a real worn-in guitar. And we all know that. You know, you get people like Dale Wilson and certain other people who get so really close to making these guitars look like really old, beaten up guitars. But, you know what I mean? It's never going to look 100%. And, you know, again, that's another sacrifice you got to make. So, same thing as with the, you know, only getting through to the clicker. Anyway, enough waffling on that. And then what I did basically is I went at the hardware to kind of like to dull it out. I can't get too close to the camera, will blur on me, but the hardware isn't as gold and as shiny as it was, and neither is the scratch plate. You can see where I've took some of the finish off the scratch plate and dulled it down around the edges to make it look more worn. And this is where I play, and this is another kind of thing that I do, is I will play the guitar and I will look where my fingers and my hands rest and where my arm rests. And then I'll kind of take that on board and go, right, when I'm sat down, my guitar, my arm rests around here. When I'm stood up, my arm rests here. So over a period of time, I would wear this area out. You know, obviously you can't, you know, wear polyurethane. But anyway, that's what I would do. I'll look at where I play. So over time, I would wear this guitar out over here because that's where my arm goes. If I'm sat down, my arm kind of goes over this area. But because I stand up so much and play, this area is normally where my arm goes, so that would wear more. And then I look where my fingers go on the scratch plate. I always rest my fingers, well, near enough, always, rest my fingers around the middle pickup. So, hence this bit of wear here. And I just looked where my fingers went, and they kind of move in this kind of like pattern there. So, again, just simulating where I play it. And then up here as well, I wore a bit away there because I noticed that kind of like the kind of flat side of my picking hand kind of rests on the top of this scratch plate, and I can feel the coldness of that part there when I play. So I thought, well, I'd wear that bit as well, and then over the years it would wear around the edges and whatnot. So that's why I did that. So basically just kind of scuff up the gold parts with I use this really, really, really fine sanding block. It's almost like A4 paper, but it just gives a really nice kind of finish. It's not rough or anything like that. It's kind of smooth, but that's what I use. It's like a sanding block that I've had for ages, and it's now so smooth. It's like really, really fine grit sandpaper, and that's what I use to scuff it up. I did the tremolo arm, I did the jack socket, I did all the saddles individually. I did the tremolo plate, and I did the scratch plate, and I did the machine heads as well. So that's what I did there. So, and again, just look at where you play the guitar and think logically about, like, you know, okay, I play the guitar, I rest my fingers here, my arm rubs on the guitar there, you know, I tend to grab it here and there, you know what I mean? And so just kind of think about it logically of where it would wear if, you know, you were playing it for, like, you know, if it was a nitro finish over a period of, like, you know, 20, 30 years, where would it wear? Because polyurethane finish will never, ever wear. It will never look like nitro, and that's, you know, and that's the thing. Also, another thing. Chips, dints and dents and stuff like that. One of the things you can do is go online and look for old guitars and just basically copy them, if you will. So this wear here is wear that I've copied off the 64 Strat I played in Old Hat Guitars. That's kind of what it looked like, and that's where it was. And I really like that. And that wear there and that bit there are from that 64 Strat. This arm wear is just kind of like, again, from me thinking, well, this is where I play, this is where my arm rubs on the guitar. That's how far over my arm goes. So that's kind of what that is. The dints and dents, some of these are from John Frusciante's guitar. I've nicked these ideas from John Frusciante's guitar. And some of these other dints and dents were from, like, you know, some other vintage strats I found online, like the wear patterns, and just basically nicked them. This was from a 63 Strat I saw on Reverb. That one there, these three and those two, I really like that pattern. So it's like, you know, one, like there's two there, and then there's a gap, and then there's three dots, and then there's another one. That is off a 63 Strat, Sunburst 63 Strat I saw on Reverb. And then some of this other stuff was kind of like, you know, artistic license, so to say. So those scrapes there are just kind of me going, yeah, I quite like the idea of that being there. Some of these other chips and stuff like that from other guitars I've referenced. But yeah, look online. Look for a vintage guitar you like the look of online. Reverb's normally full of them, stuff like that. And Google images as well. Look for an old battered up 60s Strat, Telecaster, Jaguar, Les Paul, whatever. And just try and copy it. That's what I do with these guitars. These are, apart from this arm wear on this, and the finger wear, I've tried to copy certain wear patterns on certain guitars that I really like. For instance, when we get to the back, in a minute, when I start Relic in the back, the back is going to be Relic like a 62 Stratocaster I found on Reverb, and I'll show you the picture of that in a minute. But anyway, reference a guitar you like the look of and try and replicate the Relic job, basically, of that. Like, you know, because then you're replicating something real instead of just kind of going, oh, I think there's chips here and that the other. You know, so you're not kind of doing, you know, the Batacaster thing. It's, you know, it's a bit more realistic because you are copying something that happened, you know, to a real guitar, so to say. So that's what I do here. So there's certain bits, like I say, these chips and dents here are kind of like, you know, and those ones there are kind of like replicas of John Frusciante's 62. That was a 63. I say that's a 64 Strat. This wear here is obviously kind of me thinking that's where it would wear, and stuff like that. So, and then obviously this backside bit here, that's from a, oh, what was it? I think that was a 59. It was definitely a 50 Strat. There was a battered up 50 Strat I found on Google Images that had this kind of wear on the bottom like that. So I've copied it. So that's what that is. So this body wear here is like a close kind of copy of this late 50s Stratocaster that I found. So that's what I do. I reference loads of different guitars, and I kind of basically amalgamate loads of different ideas into one guitar. I say, apart from obviously armware and plectrum wear, that's got to kind of come from you, because you kind of want to personalise it a little bit. But I've taken loads of like little chips and dints and dents from loads of guitars that I love. Anyway, I need to get on. So, and then I scuffed up, like I say, the metal work with just like really, really fine sandpaper. Some people use wire wool. I don't like wire wool at all. You get fibres everywhere. You breathe them in. It's not good. So I prefer to use kind of like really, really fine sandpaper. I mean, it's literally like, it's like A4 paper now. It's like so fine, this sanding block. Okay, so that's the body. That's what I do. I reference guitars I like, and then I just kind of scuff them up as I go along. I hope this is making sense. Fingerboard wear. This is another thing that I want to talk about quick. This is difficult to do. I want to do another video on this at some point. I'm not going to do it in this video. But it's the same technique as I used for the body. I just basically scrape through. But normally you can get to the wood on your fingerboard. That is the wood. That's not a clear coat. That is actually the maple board in there. This pattern is a copy of the real fingerwear on my old 1970s, early 70s Ibanez Strat. So if you look at my Ibanez 70 Strat, this is the kind of like fingerwear pattern, and I've replicated it on this guitar. So it's not too much, but again, it's kind of like referencing something that's real, that's actually happened over time. And I think that just adds a bit more. You know, if you just kind of start kind of gouging a fretboard like I have done in the past, it tends to look not real. It looks a bit too, you know, contrived and fake. So, you know, so yeah. So anyway, so that's what I do, everybody. Like I say, only go through the top layer. Leave the clear coat. Only go to the clear coat on a poly guitar. If you've got a nitro guitar, then you can get to the wood really easily. But if it's poly, go down to the clear coat, because you won't, you know, if you try and get through that clear coat, it won't look good, and it's just too much hard work. It's not worth it. So anyway, And then obviously scuffing up, metal work. Your metal work doesn't want to be shiny. It wants to be kind of like, dirty and tarnished. And I say using really, really, really fine grit sandpaper will do that. But be very light-handed. Do not be heavy-handed with the metal work. Be quite light. And just do it. Just take your time with it more than anything. Do not rush any of this. This guitar took me... I think this guitar took me about a week. No, that's a lie. It took me about 5 days, so not quite a week, but nearly, to kind of get it where I was happy with it, and go, right, yeah, that's done now. The only thing I need to do is the body wear on the back, which I thought I'd leave for filming. But it did take me a long time because I wanted to make sure I got it right. It's best just to take your time with it. And also, another thing I would recommend is having the guitar assembled when you're relicking it is key. Obviously, you can't have it assembled when you're doing the metalwork. But once you've scuffed up the metalwork, put the guitar back together and play it, and just see where you play it. So you can add to it. Like, for instance, like I say, this arm wear is where my guitar would start to wear. If it was a nitro finish over a period of years, and this is where my fingers rest, so it would start to wear there, and it would start to wear there, because, and so forth. Anyway, I really hope this is making sense, because I've got a horrible feeling this is absolute bust, and I'm wasting everybody's time. But I hope this makes sense. But like I say, reference guitars you like the look of. Like I say, I've got John Frusciante, I've got 63 Strats, I've got 64, I've got 62s. I've got my own kind of like idea of where it would wear, because that's where I would play. So reference guitars, and like I say, and just have fun, because it is fun. But take your time and go nice and easy with it. Don't just go at it. Really think about what you're doing before you do it. You really got to think about it. Don't just rush in all guns blazing, because you could ruin it, and then you're left with a guitar you don't like the look of. So okay, so enough of that. Let me show you how I do this now. I'm going to turn this guitar. I'm going to take the tremolo arm out, and I'm going to and do the back, and start showing you how I kind of relic it up and whatnot. But I really, 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 really love this guitar now. I really love the way it looks. So, and like I say, always wear eye protection. Be careful. You don't want this finish in your eyes. It's not good. It's not good to get plastic in your eyes. Okay, so let's turn this guitar over, and I'll show you what I do, and then and then I'll show you some other bits and pieces that I do. Okay, everybody. So the guitar I'm referencing for the back wear, the kind of like the belt buckle rash, if you will, is this guitar. This is a 1962 Fender Strat that's been refinished in black, as a lot of them were by the looks of it. But I found a picture of it on Reverb, and I really love this wear pattern. As you can see, sorry about the window reflection, everybody. There we go. Oh, that's all good. There we go. So that's what I'm going for on here. So I'm going to try and replicate that as best I can on this guitar, and I kind of have already kind of started it. So what you can kind of see is kind of like it goes up to about there, and that's that chip there. That's my mark. That's as far as I want to go with this bodywear. Okay, so that's where I've got to. And then that's about as far as I want to go, really. Maybe a bit further, actually. I might go to about there, because it comes to about just before the tremolo block. So it comes to about there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape up to about there. Well, not scrape, but chip away. And then come to about here. So I've got a line of where it's going to start. So you can see, this is what I'm going to try and replicate. And this is what I mean about trying to... find a guitar that you like and then replicate its wear pattern, especially an old guitar, because this guitar was aged naturally. That's somebody playing this guitar and rubbing against it for a long period of time and wearing it away. So that's what I want to replicate, and it does add a more sense of realism when you are replicating something that's been worn that way, if that makes any sense. So this is the pattern we're going for. There's just something about that pattern that I really, really like. I don't know. It just really appealed to me. So that's what we're going for. That's my reference picture. So that'll go wherever I can get it. And this is what I do. So really, 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 I don't know if this is horrific and you're really close to my face, and I wouldn't advise anyone to ever get that close to my face. Really, really sharp craft knife with a very, very, very skinny end on it. And basically what I do is I take the point end, so that point there, and basically just get underneath the finish at an angle, and you can see the finish just scrapes away. And it's very time consuming, and it's very, very, very tedious work. But you can see, you just kind of get this kind of rhythm going, so to say. And it just starts coming away, and it's just started to chuck it down outside. And that's what I'm doing. So yeah, so I need to come up here. So about there. So I need to get a line first. So this is what I'm doing. I'm just going to basically just chip away the finish, the top coat. So that's the clear coat underneath that I'm going down to. I'm not going through the clear coat. That's the wood underneath that you can see. But I'm only going down to the clear coat. So basically draw a line with a knife and then just scrape away with it. And I've just realised I'm not wearing my eye protection. That's clever, isn't it? Be back in a minute. Okay, so I couldn't find my usual cool looking safety goggles. They've disappeared. They've gone on holiday maybe to Tangiers. I don't know. So I'm having to settle for these, which are actually part of a Halloween costume from last year. But, you know, at least they're going to keep plastic out of my eye. But they're a bit overkill, to say the least. So anyway, where were we? Yes, we were here. So what I'm doing, basically, is I'm using the tip of the craft knife, or you can use a scalpel, and basically just, like, chipping the finish away. Like that. And you can see, this guitar has been it's been a darling when it's come down to relicking, I tell you, because the finish just, like, literally, with no effort at all, just is coming away. But it is tedious work, as you can see. But you do kind of build up a feel for it, if you know what I mean. Like, you know, you do build up, like, this kind of, like, rhythm almost for it. It does become very kind of easy. It becomes kind of a second nature kind of thing. You get an idea of where you're going with it, really. Okay, it starts to feel quite kind of natural, so to say. So that's what I'm doing. And what you get after you've done this for a while, once you kind of, let me just scrape a bit more of this away. Okay, so that was good. So once you've scraped kind of like away, because that's obviously as far as I want to go. That's kind of like where that needs to kind of like go to. It's kind of like just a little bit over the two screws, and that's another thing as well. It's kind of like using measurement kind of things. Just kind of like eyeballing it. You don't need to get a ruler. You don't need to be kind of like, you know, scientifically accurate with it or anything like that. But if you look at the picture, the top part of the wear. Let me see if I can get this so you can see. Let me get these goggles. I can't see. So if you look at the top part of the wear, it kind of comes down to where the screws are on the neck plate. Or, well, just over those screws. So you can kind of see. If you draw like an invisible line. Wait, that was good. If you draw like a line. Come here, you. If you draw like a line from the top of that wear pattern, it kind of just comes above the neck plate screws. And that's where I kind of want mine to go. So if I kind of like do the same thing here, you can kind of see that comes down just where the neck plate screws are. So that's what I'm kind of doing. So, once you kind of like, you know, scraped away a bit, and there's another thing as well. It's really cool. It's a really good idea to have the guitar picture on the same orientation as the guitar you're working on, because it just makes it easier. So once you kind of scraped away for a bit on the finish, like I say, get your goggles back on, Dave. You don't want to get plastic in your eye. So, you know, it is possible. A lot of people say relicking polyurethane guitars isn't possible. No, it is. It just requires a different approach, if you will. It's a different technique altogether to relicking nitro, and it's a lot more. I don't want to say it's a lot more time consuming, but it's definitely a lot. Relicking nitro is an absolute pleasure and a joy compared to relicking poly, which can be an absolute pig and a nightmare sometimes. Okay, so keep going. And again, it's imperative that this is really sharp, and watch your fingers. It's really imperative to watch, you know, to make sure it's really sharp, because it'll just go straight through the finish if it's really sharp. If it starts to dull down and starts to not work as well, go and sharpen the blade and just kind of like keep, you know, you need to keep it sharp. And I kind of like I kind of like balance it on both hands and use both hands, so I've got complete control over it really when I'm doing this. I don't want to be kind of going like this. I want it to be really close to the body. I want control. I don't want any worry of this slipping. I don't want that stabbing me in the hand or skewing off and scraping a bit of the guitar that I don't want. You know, I want it to be, you know, as precise as it can be really. I say, look, it comes off very easily, but it is literally tiny bit by tiny bit. It's not a quick kind of like, you know, quick job this at all. It takes a long time. So I'm not going to show the whole process, but this is I'll show you what it looks like once I get kind of finished with it. So this is what I'm doing, and once you kind of got to this point, let me take the camera off the tripod. I'll show you what you get. Okay, so hopefully you can kind of see here. This is the bit I've already reliced. You can kind of see there's a line there. That's where the bit I've already reliced, and here is the bit I've just done. And as you can see, there's quite a lot of kind of finish kind of left over. And all you do with that then is instead of kind of like going like this, let me see if I can get this on camera. So instead of kind of like scraping like this and getting underneath the finish and just like scraping it away like that, I then turn it over to the side and just scrape off the rest. So it makes it neater and just gets rid of that kind of like, well, what's left of the finish basically. I'm going to be able to see. This is really hard to do and film, and these goggles are not making it easy. So then what you get, it's just a bit neater then. It's, you know, you kind of get the finish you're after. Okay, so I can't look at, I keep seeing myself in LCD screen. These are ridiculous. I just don't know where my other goggles are gone. My other ones are like sunglasses. They look a lot cooler. These do not look cool. But as I say, they still keep plastic going in for my eyes, which is good. Always wear eye protection. This stuff does flake off, and you get this. You can kind of see there's these little flecks of plastic, and you don't want that in your eyes. It'd be really, really bad. This is really messy. This is a really messy job, so just be prepared that the hoover up afterwards is kind of like in depth. But if you want a Relic polyurethane guitar, you can. This is my technique. I hope this video is making sense so far. So I'm just going to keep going at it, basically. Where are we now? So it kind of comes down like that. So it comes down to that first screw hole there. And I basically kind of like, what I try and do is kind of draw the pattern out before I take the rest of the finish out, really. So, well, I just try and just get it done. You know, just try and get it done as best you can. And again, remember, you're relicking a guitar that's kind of like worn naturally. There's no such thing really as straight lines. There's not many guitars that have relic, like, you know, perfectly straight lines. But that guitar has not got straight lines in its relicking, really. So if it goes a bit off kilter like that, that's fine. That's totally fine. It doesn't want to be, you know, perfect. And again, just get underneath the finish. I say this guitar is an absolute sweetie. It really is when it comes down to relicking. It's been very, very, very easy to relic this guitar. Coming down. I'm going to have to turn the guitar to get that bit, but that's okay. I'll do that in a bit. Come over to the sides. Yeah, because it kind of stops there. Just clean up that line. So, as you can see in this picture, the kind of where we're coming down to the tremolo cavity, it kind of stops. Stops there, and kind of like there's a little bit on the front that kind of stretches near enough to the left screw. So I need to replicate that bit, and it looks like, you know, kind of triangles in a way. So I'm going to replicate that now. Well, I'm going to replicate that in a bit. But I say that's the whole wear pattern I need to get. So I've got a lot of material to take out, but this is the way This is the way I do it. Like I say, this might not be the best way to do it, but this is my way, and I find it's the most kind of accurate, if you will. I don't like you know, going at it with like, you know, the devil may care attitude, which is what I did on some of my early Relic guitars. I was just kind of like, you know, just go at it and kind of like just jab about with it, instead of kind of like taking my time with it and really trying to get something that looks, you know, and copying things as well. Like I say, I always copy. I just get like, I'll look at like 5 or 6 different guitars and just take bits I like from each single one of them and just kind of like copy them into the guitar. Again, this wear pattern on the bottom horn here, that's John Frusciante. Like I say, that's the late 50s one. That's John Frusciante's guitar. Again, you know, scraping. And usually doing it this way means there's less sanding. Sanding a guitar to Relic guitar takes forever. I wouldn't recommend sanding it. It's a nightmare to do. Okay, so I'm going to do a bit more to this, and I'll be back in but a moment to show you some more if as it kind of arises. Tiring stuff, I've got to say. Half an hour later, here we are. As you can see, we're getting there. Whew. Made a mistake. Went too far down this side, so I'm going to have to kind of try and salvage what I can of this side here. I've gone too far. I meant to kind of come round there, and I didn't, and I kind of went straight down. I lapsed in concentration. Something else was on my mind for a second, and so I'll have to salvage it as best I can. But this is where we are so far. Okay, so let's keep going. Gotta say, it's very satisfying doing a big long line of finish like this, when you just kind of get it going and you just kind of get the one line off. But of course, on camera now it won't do it. Okie dokie, so I've got the main kind of like shape of it. It needs neatening up. I'm not going to neaten it up like too much on the camera because that's going to take a few days to get it kind of like, you know, exactly how it wants to be. It's too neat at this point in time. But I want to show you where we are so far, and then the final trick that I do to these things to make them look a bit dirtier, so to say. So this is what we've got so far. So there we go. So let's say it's a bit dirty and dusty, and it's far too kind of like clean. You can see where I've darkened it off before, and this is the colour of it. Say this is just a clear coat, and I say it's extremely dirty, as you can see. And if I don't hoover this up, Joe will go mental because I've got it all over a clean sheet. But anyway, that's okay. So yeah, there's the mistake. You can see the mistake, and I had to kind of like do what I could to kind of neaten that up. It's not exactly how I wanted it to go, but I'm quite happy with it, to be honest with you. I mean, like I say, the thing is, you're never going to get it to look 100% like a proper worn guitar, you know, especially polyurethane finish. But I like it. You know, I quite like the look of that. I think it looks okay. So the final little trick I do is this. Let me show you this. Okay, so the final thing I do, just because that's far too kind of clean and it doesn't look right. It's not the same colour as like the armwear, and also it just looks too. It's just too neat and tidy. Oh, and also, by the way, everybody, I've sanded it with 400. I don't go any lighter than 400 grit sandpaper because I want it a little bit rough. But 400 grit is about as far as I go. I did use 600, but I found 600 to be a bit too smooth. But I sand it then with 400. So once I've cleared off all the area with a craft knife, I go in with sandpaper. It's like a little strip of it, and I just lightly sand. I don't dig in. I just literally, it's literally like this. It's just literally over the top, and that's it. And then just kind of like rub it off with my hand like that. Like I say, that mistake's kind of annoying, but it's not the end of the world. So that's the pattern that I want for the bodywear. Okay, so that's kind of not too dissimilar, apart from this back end now, to that. So hopefully you can kind of see. So that's what I was going for. That's kind of what I've got. It's not 100%. Like I say, you're never going to get 100% anyway. I think trying to get 100% in something like this is kind of impossible because we're not working with the same finish. That's just kind of like nitro. This is poly. It's a nightmare sometimes to work with. And that was my own stupid fault. That was my mistake. I can actually see the line I originally drew with the knife, and I didn't adhere to it whatsoever. So I had to kind of like salvage it. But I'm quite happy with the pattern of it. I think it looks quite nice. So the last thing I do now to darken this off is I take a pencil and I just basically colour it in like this. I'm not particularly kind of like there's no particular kind of like skill involved with this bit. It's just kind of just colouring it in. Seems a bit weird, but it does work. So basically I'll just colour it in like that. and then just take my thumb and just smudge it into the clear coat. And you do get it on the finish, but on the finish it just rubs off. So you can just kind of clean up once you've done. Just make sure it's nice and rubbed in, and then hopefully you'll be able to see you get a darker finish. So compared to the lighter one there, and then just keep going basically. So you don't have to be ridiculously neat with this. In the words of Neil Buchanan, it doesn't have to be neat. You just got to get a decent kind of coverage with the graphite, basically. So when you smudge it into the clear coat, and because you've sanded the clear coat's kind of rough. It just accepts the graphite, and it just darkens it off. Not too much either. It's not. It never kind of like darkens it off to a point where it's like pitch black, which is nice. It's just kind of like a dirty grey colour. Again, it doesn't have to be neat. You just need it covering. And it's just a case of just getting in there with your fingers and making a mess. And then you have to tidy up. And it takes a bit of work. And basically what you're doing, when you're smudging it in, you want the pencil lines to disappear. Once the pencil lines disappear, that's kind of when you're kind of done, so to say. Get rid of that bit. Just takes a bit of thingy. And like I say, anything that ends up on the lacquer you can just rub away. It cleans up very easily. It's just a very dirty process. This is like the grim part, so to say. But you want all the pencil lines gone. You don't want to leave any pencil lines behind. It just that's not the it doesn't work very well for the effect. But it just kind of goes this really dirty colour. And then say once it's off, clean it off the lacquer. There you go. So let me get the camera off. Sorry about the peeking. Whew, come on, tripod, relinquish the camera. Let it go. Okay, now it's caught up on the tripod. That went so well. So yeah, there we go. And then it's just kind of like a case of, like for instance, I can see a bit here where it's a little bit too light. Smudge it back in. Makes a nice mess of your fingers. But it works, and well, I've found it to work, and it just makes it look a bit less clean and a bit more dirty. And so when you look at it from a distance, it looks a bit more kind of real. Like I say, this is just kind of like preliminary. It's not 100% finished. Like I say, it's not finished yet, but I will take a few more days. But I wanted to do like this video today just to show you this is how I relic polyurethane guitars. It can be done. It's time consuming. This has taken me about an hour to just do this little bit, but it can be done. It's it's really good fun to do if you want to do it, and you can make it look pretty good. I mean, it's like I say, it's never going to be 100% convincing, but you can get it pretty close. It's good enough, kind of like for Relic in a polyurethane guitar. It looks really. I love it. I just love it. I just think it's great fun. So anyway, I'm gonna finish there, everybody. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I really hope there's something in it you can take away. I've got a horrible feeling that this video has been an absolute mess, and I should have structured it better. But hopefully there's something in it you can take away. I'm just gonna work on this a bit more now, neaten it up as best I can. But that's it. Like I say, very simple: pencil, sandpaper, scalpel, like craft knife thing, and just scrape away and make it look like as best you can, really, and get the chips and dings and dents in. And reference guitars. Like I say, go online, look at some old beaten up guitars and just reference them, and take bits from the guitars you like and just like incorporate them into your guitar. That's what I do all the time. I say there's all sorts of DNA in this guitar. But anyway, I do hope you enjoyed this video. I hope there's something in there you can take away. I hope people who've been asking for this video, I hope it's okay. And I will see you again for Q&A Wednesday. Have a great morning, afternoon, good evening, and goodbye now. Thank you very much for watching.